Konnichiwa, once again from Japan. Okay, why sodium bicarbonate? Now, I want to talk to you about something that most people probably haven't heard of unless they're a doctor, nurse, or a chemist for that matter, a biochemist. There's a thing called in the West it's most commonly known as the Bohr Effect, although lately things are starting to change. The name's being changed to the Verigo-Bohr Effect. In 1892, a Russian scientist by the name of Bronislav Verigo discovered that as your blood pH goes up, hemoglobin's ability to grab onto oxygen goes much stronger. So at a pH of 8, it really grabs onto oxygen. But as the pH drops, it much more easily just lets go of the oxygen. About 12 years later, a Danish chemist by the name of Bohr, he also discovered the same thing. They both independently discovered it, didn't know of each other's work, but the West called it the Bohr effect, but just things are lately starting to change. Now, why am I bringing up this with the sodium bicarbonate is your lungs, in addition to having glutathione there, the pH in your lungs is naturally very high. It's one of the highest places in the body. It's around a pH of, I think, about 7.8 usually. And this is to help you, just when oxygen comes in, your blood, it's low in oxygen, comes up, goes to the surface, and because the pH is high, the hemoglobin quickly grabs onto the oxygen and then goes on its merry way. If the pH is low, then say you're fighting off an infection or disease and say the pH is 7.6 or 7.5 or God forbid 7.4, the blood will have a much harder time to just grab onto the oxygen, and the amount of oxygen you'll get will be greatly reduced, and then it has to go to the cells and do it from there. So you take, or at least when I take, or anybody takes nebulized sodium bicarbonate, it will raise the pH up. I don't know the exact number, maybe around 8, 8.1, 7.8, somewhere around there, but it'll raise the pH. That's the main thing. So your hemoglobin can grab onto the oxygen. Now, here's a problem. Good things and bad things. Is CO2 good or bad? What do you think? Well, it turns out it's actually really good. Most people, everybody I've asked said pH in your blood is bad, without exception. Myself, I should have known this, but I didn't. When your CO2 levels in your blood are high, your ability to carry oxygen is also actually quite high. And the thing is, if the CO2 goes too high, it starts pushing out oxygen. And this is bad. And that can become life-threatening if it goes way too high. Also, if the oxygen level goes way too high, it starts pushing out CO2 down to dangerously low levels. This is also extremely bad. Say if I was to take oxygen, pure oxygen, breathe it in for say 24 hours. The reason people don't do this long term is eventually the oxygen pushes out most of the CO2, and where in your lungs you have this very alkaline high pH around 7.8, maybe up to 8 with the sodium bicarbonate. If you push out all the CO2, your blood's pH starts to rise. Instead of being around 7.4, maybe as low as 7.2, starts going 7.4, 7.5, 7.6. And this is a big problem because as the pH goes up in your blood, the hemoglobin doesn't want to let go of the oxygen. So you've got all this oxygen-rich blood, and then your cells are like, let go, we need the oxygen, but it's it just doesn't let go, or very little lets go, and so even though your blood is just chock full of oxygen, your cells are actually in a state of hypoxia. They're just starving for oxygen. So with the sodium bicarbonate, the second part of sodium bicarbonate is, first it raises your pH so you get more oxygen in your blood. The second part is some of that carbonate spreads through your body, and the thing about carbonate, you can't, it's like in this equilibrium balance. you can't say this is a carbonate atom. In a given period of time, it's like a percentage at a certain pH. That at a certain percent will be as a bicarbonate, a certain will be as carbonate, and a certain part will be as CO2. That's dependent on your pH. So as you absorb all this carbonate, it naturally raises your CO2 levels in your blood, which lowers your blood's pH a little bit. And why is this important? Again, as the pH of your blood goes down a little bit, oxygen from the hemoglobin lets go and gets into your cells, and your cells have more oxygen. So anyways, that's why I take sodium bicarbonate, or at least if I get COVID-19, will be to raise my pH, get more oxygen in, because I don't have access to oxygen, I'm not in a hospital. If the shit hits the fan, so to speak, I hate to say it for a while, a lot of people will be fending for themselves. They'll be at home and doing the best they can, eating soup, whatever. So anyways, I'll take the sodium bicarbonate, get my pH up, get my oxygen in, the carbonate will go in, and that will cause my CO2 level to increase in my blood. That will lower my blood pH just a little bit, and then the oxygen lets go, my cells get the oxygen they need, and everything's happy. The other secondary reason, about equal, is to prevent secondary infections. Would be just most pathogens, they love an acidic environment. There's very, very few pathogens, either viruses, bacteria, or fungi, that thrive in an alkaline environment. If you go out in nature, you'll find a few places here and there, but in general, it's very, very rare to find them. And in the body, almost everything that you catch will prefer an acidic pH. I'm sure if you took bicarbonate every day for year after year after year, I'm sure eventually you'd get some really strange, exotic bugs that nobody's ever seen or heard of, but nobody does that, so nobody gets it. Okay, in any case, I hope this information was useful. That's what I'll be doing for myself, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.